is full of resolve and hope. And I think the example of countries which have seen the worst and are coming back to normal gives us hope that we are also going to get to a better trend soon.
Fantastic. I think sometimes we also think it's a cause of worry with so many people out there.
Yeah, yeah. But otherwise, the mood of the nation, I
187.
Could you mute Shikha, please? Kamal?
Yes.
Sorry, Vivek.
no problem.
So we'll take another minute and we'll go live in a minute, teachers. Some of you are already here. We're also live on YouTube. So in one more minute, we will go live. In fact, in 30 seconds, we will go live. Okay, I think it's time. It's 3:30. So good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Vivek. Good afternoon, Kamal. It's our honor to be here today at the Shulamit University webinars, Ideas at Work. Today we have St. Luke's School with us. I'm very, very nervous today because it's my school. I graduated and did my 10th in 1986 from St. Luke's School, Vivek. And, it's always very exciting to be back at a school, albeit virtually. But it's also very nervous to be back at a school. We also have Dr. Kamal Kant Vashist here today. Kamal Kant is also an alumnus of St. Luke's. And Kamal takes care of learning at Shulamit. He's a professor of learning, a PhD in this area. And he takes care of our virtual platform called e-University that we started 5 years back. So Kamal, we'll request you to now go mute and we'll start the discussion. Starting now.
Right.
Thank you very much for being here and organizing this. So ladies and gentlemen,
Just
welcome.
a quick hello to all the teachers. Yeah, before I go.
Thank you, Kamal. So ladies and gentlemen, teachers, welcome to this webinar. I'm delighted to be here today. As a quick introduction, my name is Atul Khosla. Some of you might know me. Some of you might even have been junior or senior to me at school. I'm the founder and pro-vice chancellor of Shulamit University. It's always a pleasure to visit St. Luke's. It's an honor actually for me, and I've been there a few times. As a quick introduction, I'm a BTech from IIT Kanpur, and post that I did my MBA from Bombay, a school called Bajaj. 25 years in the industry, different parts of the world. When the teaching bug hit me, and I now teach full-time at Shulamit. Very proud to call myself a teacher. Delighted to introduce you, to you Mr. Vivek Atray today. Vivek is an ex-IAS officer, but more importantly, one of his big accomplishments, I think, is the IT Park of Chandigarh, which he conceptualized and then delivered. Vivek is a TEDx speaker, a beautiful human being, someone who really believes in spiritualism, an author of several books, writes very regularly in newspapers, but more importantly to me, a very dear friend and a very dear friend of Shulamit, a visiting professor and an advisor to us. So with that introduction, we're going to pick up the topic of the day, which is creativity. And who else better than talk about creativity than Vivek? The format we're going to use today is going to be around 25 to 30 minutes of your talk, Vivek. I'll jut in a couple of times if you allow me, give my perspectives. We'll play a couple of videos, and then we'll take questions and answers from all of you. So please feel free to ask any questions either through the chat bot or the Q&A at the bottom, and we'll be all yours. So Vivek, over to you. Don't let me down. This is my school.
Thank you very much, Atul. And I don't plan to let you down today or any other day, especially today. Welcome all the teachers of St. Luke's School. And Atul Khosla just mentioned what a joy it is for him to be connecting with you once again. And obviously, one has goose pimples when one connects with one's own school. I'm from St. John's in Chandigarh, and I have been the president of the alumnus Sejoba also, earlier from Modern School Delhi. And earlier, I studied 3 years in England in Wickham School. My father was posted there. So I mainly these schools. Also Central School in 11th, 12th, I had to go there for cricket reasons. Very warm welcome to all of you in this webinar series. We've been having a beautiful series of webinars with Sholini University and various schools and various topics from emotional intelligence to leadership to public speaking skills to interpersonal relations to artificial intelligence and creativity. And today it's a really beautiful topic that creativity is the elixir of life. And what a lovely afternoon to celebrate creativity. Let me start by quoting Albert Einstein. I've got a couple of quotes of his. And Albert Einstein first said, creativity is intelligence having fun. So intelligence, when it has fun, then it is creativity. And the second one is to do with contagion, which is what is happening in the world nowadays, of the virus kind. But he said creativity is contagious, pass it on. So if creativity is contagious, pass it on and don't pass on the virus. It means that we should pass on the creative spirit. Our education system, and I have been in the IAS, I resigned from the IAS 2.5 years ago. I have met several of your DCs of Solan because I was posted in Panchkula and Kalka earlier. So I used to meet your Solan officers many a time. And I must also add before I go into my lecture that my wife Nina also studied in St. Luke's, by the way, for a couple of years, I think when she was in class 2 or 3 only. Her father was in the Elixir board and posted in Solan and went on to Shimla, Tara Hall, and various places after that. So we live in Panchkula, and we are also housed in a campus where toddlers come and learn their schooling. Their initial days are spent here. We have a toddlers world school, and it's wonderful to be in their touch. So the education system, which I have also had some experience in the government, is unfortunately tailored to rote learning, to bookish learning, to learning by the written word that speaks from the pages of a book. But we don't really get to understand and appreciate the concepts that well if we go only by the textbook. And also, I would like to add that our education system often does not leave time for the students to indulge in creativity in school. And they have to necessarily study hard to get to wherever they want to be without really often even appreciating the idea behind the concept that they're learning, whether it's physics or chemistry, or the reason why they're learning history, or the reason why they are doing a particular experiment in some practical lab. So I think it is very important for us to introduce creative skills at a very young age stage of the lives of these children. And to play with even plasticine, which is a sort of clay. I remember doing that in my childhood school in England because I happened to be there. I remember making shapes with plasticine, which nowadays also children do in our toddler school. We've seen that. But things should be creatively oriented right from the beginning of learning and not so much oriented only towards logic and facts. Although logic and facts are important, memorizing details and dates are also, I guess, important. Mathematical analysis and calculations are important. Physics related, chemistry related formulas are important. But the point is that we have to somewhere encourage our youngsters to think and to use the right side of their brain, which is the creativity side of the brain, where logic is on the left side and creativity on the right side. So I would say that if we encourage them to somehow come up with different answers to a problem, they look at something differently, then they will be able to think out of the box, think differently. One of the ways to do that is storytelling. So just to share with you my experience, although I'm not a storyteller, I'm more of a motivational speaker and a speaker. But I find building up a story in a group a great idea for teachers to do with their children. So maybe I could start off with a sentence saying, once upon a time, I was walking on a dark railway platform and a train came and stopped at the platform, and a single person got out of that train, but the person I was waiting for did not. And I just wondered why that person is not here, and the train sped off. And then, we asked the children to build up from there. I just made up this story right now. Being an author and a writer helps. Now, this youngster who's thinking next, it is the turn of the guy in the boy in the first row, let's say. What is the next that happens in this story? And let them think. Let them say that this stranger who came was actually that person I was waiting for, but in a different garb. Or it was somebody who had killed that person whom I was waiting for. It could be anything. And then I have done this story writing sessions with children, and they go to places like outer space and magic and whatever. So it's great for their creativity. Coming to the basics of why and how we should be creative in life. Let's say we are teachers for the last 20 years. You have been teaching for 20 years. I am an educator or motivator only for the last 2.5 years, I would say, after resigning from the IAS. But you would have been doing it for longer, most of you. Some of you may be young teachers, just started. I would say that you need to absorb and retain creativity in your own life, in your own lives. What can be done to do so? There are a few ways. You always were fond of music, and somehow you had to give it up, singing or playing an instrument, or even listening to and comparing music with others, comparing notes about music, songs. So you had that interest, which you haven't had time for now. Time is something which is in our hands. Unfortunately, we have no excuses. We have busy lives. We all have busy lives, and we have very little breathing space, I know. But there are people who are busier than us who find time for creativity. There are people who are extremely more busy than us who are still finding time to paint, to sing, to play badminton, to go for long photography walks in the natural surroundings. Nowadays, of course, you can't, but after a few weeks, maybe you can once again. So, to be able to fit in creativity in your schedule, or schedule, as the Americans would say, is vital. So, you have to somewhere fit in that creative spirit into your daily timetable. And perhaps if you can't do it on a daily weekday basis, then Saturdays or Sunday, or even just a Sunday, when you look forward to those 2 hours where you are practicing your singing and exercising your vocal cords, or you are reading that longed for book, you love the series of let's say Agatha Christie or Mills and Boons or whatever you read, and you want to read them again. No harm, just pick up that book. 2 hours on a Sunday, I'm sure you can take out for yourself, despite the children's needs, despite other distractions and people and spouses. It is possible. 2 hours a week, maybe, somehow. I used to be writing a book. I wrote two of my novels. I've written three books. Atul was very kind to say several books, but I've written three books. And the two of my novels, which were written in 2011 and 2014, were written when I was in a busy government assignment, both times, different assignments, busy. I would find 40 minutes to write per day, sometimes 30 minutes to write per day. Those 30 minutes used to be the most rewarding of my day. It's difficult to get into the groove and write for 30 minutes and then go through your daily routine and get back to that 30 minutes again next morning, early morning. It's tough, but you can do it. And even if you're not writing very well one day because the burdens of life are troubling you, you write anyway. And then you edit it whenever you have a longer time period available, improve it. But at least you're getting on with your passion, with your wanted pursuit, and you're doing what you want. So loving your life is about finding time for creativity. A routine life is a dull life, is not a successful life. It is successful in many ways. You looked after your kids, your spouse, your home, you taught, you watched a TV show, you went for a walk. It's super. Nothing wrong with that. You made food, you looked after everybody who had to be looked after. It's a human service that one is doing, men, women, whoever are doing this. But I think the ladies are overworked, especially, and need to somehow find time for themselves. And that 30 minutes, 40 minutes per day, or 2 hours on a Sunday, which I'm advising you to do, will enable you to think of creative ways of living and doing things which you never thought possible in your life. So please think of that and get into the creative thinking habit as soon as possible. And I believe it is time for us to show a video of Aman, a very bright student at Shulini University. I'm going to request Atul to show you how creative Aman is, and her professor and the university at large with its emphasis on research. Atul, over to you.
Thank you, Vivek. I think the point I'd like to make through this video is the fact that we normally associate science with seriousness. We normally associate science with the left brain analysis. One of the things that we've been experimenting at Shulini is to bring creativity, or the right side of the brain, into research. And to me, it's about three things. The first is to stretch the individual in terms of the idea. So dreaming, boundless. How do you make sure that you can start thinking beyond something that you've been thinking about? I think the second area about creativity or working with students is to make it risk-free. People or students or faculty or teachers need not be afraid about trying new things or trying new things around creativity. And finally, it's about the leader who matters. It's if you get the right guru, you get the right teacher, then of course, you know, the success can be boundless. It could be infinite. So this is the example of a student. Her name is Aman. Aman did a bachelor's and master's at Shulini. Was a bit of a problem child, comes from a lesser privileged family in Punjab. Something happened in her PhD. She transformed, started working on a critical topic called water. So as you all know, potable water is a big challenge across the world. So Aman started working on water, did some path-breaking work on water, and in the process was awarded the World Water Fellow. It's actually a very prestigious award. It's a UN-sponsored award. More than 100,000 researchers across the world apply for that reward, and Aman got it from a small town, from a small university in India, of course, path-breaking work, and ended up winning a 25 lakh award after that from Tata Trust and Lockheed Corporation. Not something easy to do, but creativity was something that brought in the success. And the story is very simple, and we'll sort of talk about it, but they were working on a particular molecule which they thought will kill antibiotics or would kill bacteria in people. They realized that it actually killed bacteria in water, and that's where this the idea came. I'm going to show the video, and you'll get to know the magnitude of the effort and why I believe Aman might one day get the Nobel Prize. Thank you. So, Vivek, the point I wanted to make is that we normally associate creativity with painting or music or the soft skills. But you can actually bring creativity into day-to-day work, as we saw with Aman. So, moringa is nothing but drumsticks. These are drumsticks that we use in sambar on a pretty daily basis when we have sambar. And imagine the power of expanding the use of drumsticks. And I think that's what creativity does. I think before I hand it over to you, let me tell you that I'm very, very proud to be a Lukeite, an alumnus of St. Luke's. I think St. Luke's was an amazing school. It gave me the power to think. It gave me the power to compete with the best in the world. And I genuinely believe that the future of India lies in what we call Bharat, which is students from smaller towns. And what's all happening in this whole online world will democratize knowledge, democratize learning, and there'll be many, many more very successful students coming from Solan, Arki, and other parts of India, which are smaller towns of the country. I have to thank my teachers, and I have to thank teachers in general who have brought online learning to every student who has a mobile phone. You are also true Corona warriors. With that, over to you, Vivek.
Thank you, Atul. Very good inputs, very inspiring. And I can see why St. Luke's is such a good school because Atul Khosla and Kamal are from there. It's so great to have them on this panel. And of course, I mentioned my wife, Nina, not to forget her. So very bright people, all of them. Just to share how we can be creative at our workplace, Atul also mentioned that science and work places can be creative without the need for music, art, or photography, which are, of course, an integral part of our life or should be. But how can we be creative in our work? So I'll just mention three quick experiments that I did in my tenure as Director IT of Chandigarh Administration. The IT Park, Atul already mentioned, so I won't emphasize that much. Luckily, day before yesterday, the IT exports from Chandigarh, Mohali, and Panchkula and nearby areas crossed an amount of rupees 5,000 crores per annum. So the IT Park and other such facilities were able to enhance exports to that level and give employment to about 35,000 people in the last 10 years. The other thing I'd like to tell you is that there was something called e-Sampark, which we were able to start in our own little creative ways, where instead of people going to banks or to government offices to pay their bills, we had set up these little e-Sampark centers where one or two windows or three windows would be there. And at that time in 2003-4, when they started, it was unheard of that this work was outsourced to an agency which charged only 6 rupees per transaction. And people did not have to stand in queues. They were open from 8 o'clock to 8 p.m., 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and open on Saturdays. So people did not have to take short leave from their office also to go and deposit their bills. Although some people like to take that short leave and have a samosa chaat on the way back. But we were able to do that. And also, the third one I'd like to talk about is something related to education. It's called CTOS. And CTOS was something which full form was Chandigarh Training on Soft Skills. So that training on soft skills is something which North Indian kids especially lack. And we find that children of many parts of India, of course, but I have seen in Punjab, Haryana, and Chandigarh and Himachal also, that they are very intelligent. They are quite bright. They are full of knowledge, but not able to carry out conversation, not able to express themselves confidently, the right body language, the right kind of personality traits. So this soft skills training program was started from class 9 to 12, so that these children, by the time they got into college and office careers, would be trained in communication and soft skills as well. So these ideas are ideas that some of them can be incorporated in your school. I'm sure your school is, I haven't been, so I can't say, but is at a level of automation and a level of creativity and a level of learning which is excellent. But there is always scope for improvement, and creative thinking will enable you to improve further that school going experience for the child and for the teachers. Supposing the level of e-governance in your school in terms of salary disbursement, in terms of staff management, resource management, student databases, MIS, is of a level which is, let's say, level 2. And it can go to level 1 with some intervention, some creative thinking, some redeployment, some intervention of software, and a tie up with a company, or some parent can help you, or something like that. So these things will enable you to go to a higher level. And then also interventions where you are already doing online classes, how to make those online classes more creative, more interesting. Many of the teachers we have communicated with through these sessions are those who are undergoing a lot of stress with these online classes. And I'm sure there are ways in which maybe St. Luke's can look at making these online classes till whenever they are necessary, or even later, to be more interesting than they are at the moment, and how they can be more visuals, more interaction, less of a monologue, which even the teachers don't want to do. Why should they be speaking for an hour or whatever it is? They more of interaction should be there. And so, are there creative ways to get more out of that online class and make you feel better, more comfortable? There are. So obviously some ideas, some games, some storytelling, some competition, some participative kind of interactions. So these kinds of things will make your work much better. And as a school, you could also lead the way by encouraging children to adopt an all-rounder kind of personality in their lives. When they come back to school, you could also carry out an assessment of which child is actually a little bit unidimensional in his or her persona. So he is very good at maths and very good at physics, but doesn't really participate in anything else. So getting them to participate, I know that most of the children nowadays do participate in creative activities and go on stage and sing and whatever they do. But it is very, very important that we identify children who are not all-rounderish and multi-dimensional in their approach to life or their learning, and get them. Each child would have something extra in him or her, apart from that intelligence quotient. And then that social emotional learning, which you have heard about. And SEL is something which also needs to be imparted at a very young age, so that children start appreciating others. They are aware of themselves. They are aware of others. They have empathy for others. They can appreciate people from different backgrounds. That is also a creative way of being in a school. And if you can inculcate and impart that empathy to others, to students who are maybe from privileged backgrounds, especially for children who are not as privileged, and then that empathy will go a long way. So checking their behavior with children from poorer backgrounds, and many ways to maybe assess each child in a different way. Maybe outsource that assessment to somebody, maybe do it yourself, whatever is possible. And also a very important thing that I must add here, I've been director of school education for a state, and I didn't want to mention that in the beginning, but here I am telling you that it is very important also to increase the number of hours that children play outdoors. There is a company which is focusing on the fact that if students have 2 games periods in the week, supposing, and there is one football, then 40 kids get to touch that football 2 times or 4 times a week. And that is definitely not sufficient physical activity outdoors. Sports is something which helps us to be creative and makes us think differently. Sports persons are those who can learn how to lose. There are times when you lose in life, and sports teaches you that one day you lose, one day you win. Life is not going to be constant. Life will change. Life will be full of ups and downs. So if you can increase and enhance their contact with sports as well, and even other creative activities, if they're not getting enough opportunity somehow to do that while balancing the studies element. Of course, it is important to study and get more marks. It is important to keep on doing that. But I'm going to tell you a quote which I have, which is basically that life is not about marks. Life is about making a mark. So if you can tell these kids that life is about making a mark, of course you want great results, you want your school to shine and toppers and all that, and it's great to have toppers, but all of them need not be toppers, and even the school students who are not, they can do a lot in their lives. Very important to be able to do that. I'm going to be creative in this speech and tell you the story of Rajnikant and Amitabh Bachchan, which I have saved up for this particular session and not told us in this, not told anyone yet in this webinar series. So Rajnikant and Amitabh Bachchan for you. It'll take only 2 to 3 minutes, not more than that. And I'm going to share how creative people are in coming up with such ideas. So Rajnikant being the most popular actor of South India, at least, and Amitabh Bachchan being one of the most popular actors of Bollywood, they were sitting together over a cup of coffee, and Rajnikant said, "I am more globally popular than you are." Very pompous of him to say that, but Amitabh Bachchan was equal to the task. He said, "No, I think I am more popular, and I know more people across the world." So Rajnikant said, "Do you know Tom Cruise?" And Tom Cruise, being a famous Hollywood actor, Amitabh Bachchan should know him, but somehow he'd never met Tom Cruise, and he said, "No, I don't know him." So he says, "I know him personally. Would you like to meet him?" So Amitabh Bachchan said, "Let's verify the level of closeness of Rajnikant with Tom Cruise." And they fly off to Beverly Hills to meet Tom Cruise. And there's no lockdown, no physical distancing. And they go there and ring the bell of Tom Cruise's house early in the morning at 6 o'clock. Tom Cruise comes out rubbing his eyes, and, "Oh, you see, Rajnikant, you're here early in the morning. You must have landed by the morning flight or early morning. Come and have breakfast. Come, let's have, come and freshen up." Amitabh Bachchan is quite impressed that Tom Cruise is so warm to Rajnikant despite the unearthly hour of 6 a.m. And anyway, they're having breakfast, and Amitabh Bachchan says, "Do you know the President of the United States as well?" Rajnikant says, "Yeah, of course I know Barack Obama. And my GK is not very good, so I don't know who's the president nowadays." So Barack Obama was the president at that time. And so they went to White House, and there was line to get into the White House. Barack Obama was strolling the grounds, and he was on his rounds when he saw Amitabh Bachchan and Rajnikant in the line. He didn't know Amitabh Bachchan, but he knew Rajnikant. He said, "Oh, Rajni, why are you standing in the line? Come inside. Allow him in, please, guards." And so Barack Obama welcomes them. He says, "Bring your tall friend along as well." So Amitabh Bachchan was put in his place, and they both come to the gardens and have high tea with Barack Obama. And Barack Obama is absolutely, charming and delightful as a person. Amitabh Bachchan is floored, of course, and so is Rajnikant. He knows him already. Amitabh Bachchan somehow whispers to Rajnikant, sorry, while they're about to leave. He says, "Do you know the Pope also?" He just says it jokingly, but Rajnikant says, "Yeah, of course I know the Pope. Let's fly to Rome." And they fly to Rome and they go to the Vatican. I know that many of you follow the Catholic faith, and this is something which you will identify with. So they go to the Vatican City, and the Pope is there for the Mass. It happens to be his time for Mass. They are in the crowd of 10,000 people gathered in the Vatican City Square, and the Pope is about to arrive on the balcony. And Rajnikant and Amitabh Bachchan standing. Amitabh Bachchan says, "Now we can't go up, so let's wait." He says, "No, no, I know the guards know me, the Pope knows me. I'm going up and meeting him on the balcony." So Rajnikant goes up to the balcony and meets the Pope, shakes his hand. Nobody's allowed there, but Rajnikant is allowed. And they both wave like statesmen to the crowd, and Rajnikant floors everybody. He comes back. The Pope starts his sermon, but Amitabh Bachchan has fainted, and Rajnikant comes and revives him and asks him, "Amit, come on. I mean, let's listen to the Pope. How come you're collapsing like this? What happened?" He says, "I didn't faint because you appeared on the balcony." He says, "When you were on the balcony, an Italian man asked me," he says, "who is on the balcony with Rajnikant?" So that is the level of fame of Rajnikant. And an Italian person, of course, it's an exaggeration. Of course, it's a joke. Of course, it's made up. But someone very creative has made it up. And it is one of my favorites to regale audiences with. I'm not a joke teller, but I do use these ideas in speeches. I have to give long speeches at times, and they relieve the ennui which is going on. So thank you for listening, and be creative, be differently minded than others. And Shulini has a great focus on research, which can only come from creativity. Atul Khosla will show you a video, and then we'll take some Q&A. And Atul, please add your views on creativity. Yeah.
Definitely, Vivek. Thank you very much. I think there are two views which I'd like to give to teachers over here. One is, this is your time to be creative. We all wanted to be actors in our life. We always wanted to be on the big screen. And you are doing exactly that. You're on the big screen every day. You are online every day. So take this as an opportunity of experimenting with how you teach. You are in a relatively risk-free environment. You can experiment, you can do whatever you want, and the students will grasp it and they will take it with open hands. So please use this opportunity. I think that's one. I think the second thing I'll say is there's a lot of onus on you also as teachers, especially with online coming in. So take your online, if you're doing Zoom classes or others, take them as seriously as you would in the real world, which means dress properly, have a proper office, have a proper background. I think there were some questions about online, which I'm going to answer in a second, but it's your opportunity to be creative. I think the last thought I'd like to mention, Vivek, over here is that every great person in this world has a great hobby. You can start from Steve Jobs to Barack Obama to Narendra Modi to Donald Trump. Everyone has a hobby which is beyond work. So I will request you as teachers to please have that hobby yourself, but also encourage your students to have that hobby. I remember when I was growing up, while we did have some hobby classes at school, something happened, and I think something the 9th, 10th, 11th standard where we got too much serious into studies, and then of course we picked up some hobbies in college. But I think if every student has a hobby, if every teacher has a hobby, the world will be a better place, and there'll be so much more creativity that flows into the world, which will make the world so much more beautiful than what it is today. You're all working with young students. You're all working with young people, and that's your passion, and that's why you're teachers. The reason I teach is because that's exactly my passion. It's my passion to try to make young people around me world beaters. That's the passion of Shulini University. We have a small video to show this, but before I show the video, I'd like to share a few facts about Shulini with you, which you might not know. There are two things which typically universities are known for globally. One is how many patents you file. You'll be excited to know that Shulini files the highest number of patents in India. We beat the IITs, or the mighty IITs as I call them, by miles. The second thing which we are known for as a university is how many students of yours can go and start studying in top universities of the world. We send more students to different parts of the world, Vivek, than top universities that we hear of, like Ashoka or Delhi University. So it's something that shows us that even students from smaller towns, students who are relatively lesser privileged, can do amazing work. Of course, you need to give them that freedom. You need to make them creative, and the sky's the limit. With this, I'm going to share a video, and then we'll get into the Q&A.
Throughout history, the young have always been the ones to shape the future. And they continue to do so today. You are the country's biggest asset. best bet to conquer the future. So what are you waiting for? Your time to dream is now. Dream of the research that can change the world. Dream of a high-flying corporate career. Dream of higher studies in the world's best universities. Dream of developing cutting-edge technology of the future. Dream of your own global startup. At Shuli University, we empower you and enable you to chase your dreams and change the world. Learning, think success.
Thank you, Vivek. We have a couple of questions. Why don't we pick these up?
Sure.
And teachers, please feel free to ask any questions that you have, either on comments or the Q&A.
Sure, we have a couple of questions. One of them is, of course, thank you for the motivational lecture. The other is, good afternoon. Acha, that's Kamal thanking his teacher. Wait, let me see where that is.
So Atul Verma is asking a question on how can I enhance my online teaching skills.
Okay, on Q&A. Yeah,
you've been doing a lot of talking over webinars and doing a lot of teaching, Vivek, nowadays. You want to pick this up, and then I can give some thoughts.
Sure. Yeah, you must. Basically, online teaching skills and classroom teaching skills will have to match each other in the coming future. It is necessary that we are as good online as we are in the classroom. Of course, we are slightly at an advantage at a classroom because you have eye contact at a greater level. You can actually, if a student is doing well, you can actually go and shake his hand or pat him on the head or shoulder, whatever. So the thing is that warmth may be missing. But you can do different things online, because if you become predictable, if you become routinized, then students will not take you seriously. So start with a bang, start with some experiment, some game, some activity, some participatory, interactive kind of exercise. Do that. And plus, Atul will tell you how important it is. He already said about the background, the backdrop, your own dress, your own demeanor. You look as if you're ready for school, and you try to put the camera as appropriate to your face as necessary. Like Atul and I are trying to show you a profile which is probably ideal in that sense. If we are too close to the camera or too distant from the camera, then we are not making the desired impact. And I think it is possible to improve your skills online. Atul, please add.
Absolutely. I think the first, of course, is practice, 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 Atul. It's a different skill talking to the camera versus talking to a class or talking to live people. So that's the first thing I'll say. But you can do a few things. I think the first is to make sure that your place of work is properly organized. So be in a quiet zone. Take your lecture or your class from a place where you've got quality connectivity. The different zones which tend to be dead zones. So make sure that you're not in a dead zone. Proper office which is sealed is very important. A backdrop, which I said is critical because it shows the seriousness you're taking in the class. And finally, it's the way you dress. I've been in situations where some of my faculty were taking classes in pajamas, Vivek, and I had to intervene and sort of take them through grooming lessons of online lecturing. Then you can also be creative in terms of how you run your lectures. And there are a few things that you can do. I don't know how savvy you are on technology, whether you're using plain Zoom or you've got other tools, but a lecture doesn't have, or a class doesn't have to be the same 40 minutes or 1 hour anymore. You know, typically as a monologue, make it 20 minutes or half the time duration and keep the remaining as Q&A. I've seen a lot of interaction with my students. In fact, students are asking more questions because they're not seen anymore. They can be anonymous or they're more comfortable just typing out those questions. So encourage them, send bulletins to time to them. You can also do a lot of sending a lot of pre-reading stuff, Atul, to your students. So when we think about learning, it happens at two levels. There is synchronous learning, which what we're doing today, which is live. And then there is asynchronous learning, which is learning that happens outside the classroom. And typically in the online world, there is much more focus on asynchronous learning. Of course, you need to find out your right balance, but do give assignments in advance, reading materials in advance, and you can make sure that I don't know whether you've got an ability to take quizzes and other things, but if you can, make sure that that's happening. So regular engagement with students is very, very important. So these are few things, few tips that we have. You need a proper set of technology to make it happen. You need something called a learning management system. I'm assuming that St. Luke's will have it. You need it integrated into your video lecturing or webinar systems, and you need an assessment system where students can take assessments. As a small example, our midterm exams are happening right now, Vivek, at Chulani, and all students are taking midterm exams on an online platform. Of course, you have to be more innovative in the type of questions you ask, because you can't ask questions that they can go to Google and answer straight away, do a cut and paste. And those are the tricks that are needed for online. Happy if St. Luke's is interested, happy to have a full session on online learning, but I'll leave that discussion to Sister Agnes.
There is a question on technology problems.
Right.
On the chat, Jyoti ma'am, like server down, unable to connect, app is showing some error. So these are parts of the experience of online teach will happen at times. And obviously you will have downtimes. There are ways to do it. It is tough to get on a WhatsApp call with all your students on your phone, but there are other platforms which are available. Perhaps your school can advise that in case this particular platform is down or your computers are down, then this is the option, which is a second alternative. We are using something called Zoom here. There may be StreamYard, there could be even Google Meet, there could be WhatsApp calls, which have gone up to eight people, but the eight is not enough for a class. So try and find alternative ways. Otherwise, you'll have to make do with making up next day. But Atul might add to that this also.
Absolutely. Uh, Again, it depends on the technology you're using, but most lectures can be recorded. Record your lectures, I would say, because students who can't go live can then view the lectures. But like I said, for a recorded lecture, very, very difficult for a student to see it for an hour. So break your lectures down into 20 minutes of formal classes and another 20 minutes of Q&A and interaction with the class. So you'll have to break it down, unlike a standard class where it's blended. Your discourse and your Q&A is blended, typically in an offline class. While in online, you might want to break the two together. You record your 20 minutes of your lecture and 20 minutes of Q&A. So that's one way. Some of my faculty members are also creating WhatsApp lectures, which they are sending to students on WhatsApp, Vivek, especially guys who don't have access to high quality internet. It's a lot happening in J&K because many of our students come from Kashmir, where they don't have 4G or 2G. They will have to work on 2G as of now. So we all have to, I think, experiment, and that's your time to be creative, actually. Your time to be engaging. In fact, I have to congratulate St. Luke's, one of our professors who stays on campus, and I stay on campus here. His little girl goes to St. Luke's, and she was telling me the engagement levels that St. Luke's has. I was seeing some homework that she got. It was beautifully done because the teacher was, writing it down on paper, clicking pictures, sending it back on WhatsApp, and requesting students to create small videos, send them back. I mean, it was amazing. And the kid was loving it, Vivek. I mean, she was so excited about learning from home, not just working from home. So technology will be a challenge. I think it's getting sorted out. In case St. Luke's need help on technology, again, delighted to help. So I'll again leave that to Jasmine ma'am or Sister Agnes. Happy if you reach out to me or Kamal, we'll be happy to provide technology support and share with you best practices on technology. Just to let you know that we have all our 4,000 students on on a technology backbone. There are live classes running 24/7. Not a single day of classes has been or lectures have been lost, Vivek, actually. So I call it the virtual university or a virtual school. That's the environment we're in. But before we go into other Q&As, and there might be others, please ask your questions. I have a question for you, which I ask pretty much every time. If I'm a teacher, it's so much stress for me possibly nowadays. Most of us might be ladies. We are daughters, we are wives, we are daughters-in-law, we are mothers. So much pressure from the family front that we have to take our online lectures, so much other stuff to be done. How do we cope up with the stress?
Yeah, it's absolutely a very valid point, especially in these times when online classes are there, parents are at the other end with the students, and so much is happening. I think it's necessary to find time for yourself. Very important, rather, to find time for yourself, to meditate, to read something that you always wanted to read or watch that show, de-stress through finding time for yourself. Perhaps ladies need to be a little selfish at times, self-centered at times, giving so much to society and to the family all the time, and find that 30 to 45 minutes per day, as I mentioned earlier, creative thinking time. It could be time for just relaxing and doing those things which you always wanted to do. And also meditation, I mentioned, and Atul and I have been talking about it in other classes. If you can meditate for about 10 to 20 minutes a day, it'll also give you that calmness to help that stressful mind throughout the day. So you will be able to handle your thoughts better and those emotions better. Meditation I follow is by Paramahansa Yogananda. The Autobiography of a Yogi is the book which we follow. And Shulini has a beautiful Yogananda library. They also follow the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda, Atul and his family. There are so many beautiful nuggets in this book. You may have seen it somewhere. You may have seen it or learnt of it. And perhaps meditation lessons can be prescribed. After that, you can subscribe to them. You learn how to meditate in a very simple way at home. I follow this path. It's Kriya Yoga. You can follow some other path if you like, but you have to follow some path. Find meditation to be your friend, and mindfulness, trying to focus on the present moment. Stress will reduce if your mind doesn't wander too much and doesn't take the burden of things that you don't deserve to be burdened with. So try and get over that. And anger management is another subject which we often talk about. So try and be less distressed by things. Strike off 3 reasons for being upset from your list of 10 things that upset you. Strike off the bottom 5 rather. Yeah, Atul.
So Monica has an interesting question. She's asked, Monica ma'am, she's asking, what to do if a child leaves the class in between and pretends that he or she is attending online sessions? I have an answer for this. It's a difficult one, Monica ma'am. You can solve it with technology. So one of the things we do at Shulini is, you're a computer teacher, ma'am, so you would understand technology. One of the things we're doing at Shulini is after every 5, 7, 10 minutes, we have a quiz that pops up and students have to answer that quiz. The quiz is on the lecture which they're doing. So it comes up just like KBC, and there's a live scoring on that. So we have much more flexibility because we have continuous learning in a university. I'm just told that Sister Agnes is also watching us on YouTube. Thank you, ma'am. So lovely to have you with us today. Sister Agnes is a wonderful person, Vivek. I so wish she was here, but I think she was having technology challenges logging in. But coming back to your question, Monica, ma'am, technology can be used. I don't know, again, what platform you're using. Again, Dr. Kamal Kant Vashist, who's also a St. Luke's alum, is the expert on this. So Kamal, you might want to leave your telephone number with some point of contact at Shulini. Probably I'll give you Sister Agnes's number. You can reach out to her. Happy to support Shulini in any possible way. So I'm sure there are ways in Google Meet to do to get such responses and doing quizzes, etc., ma'am. So we can help you. Kamal is also given his telephone number, so we can definitely help you on this. The topic is creativity, Vivek, and I was trying to get being a little creative. 2 minutes of creativity before we close.
Sure, go ahead.
How about doing a rapid fire set of questions? Why don't I ask you 5 questions?
Let's do it.
But you have to answer them honestly and with a why.
One word answers
One word answer with a why.
with a Y.
Yes. So
Okay.
your favorite color.
Red.
Why?
Why? Why? Okay, red. Why?
Not wine. Why is it red?
Because I just find it very striking. Why?
Okay. Your favorite food.
Favorite food is South Indian. Sambar dosa, sambar idli. Why?
Your favorite school.
Favorite school is St. John's because I have studied there and close to, I do a lot of activities there. Why?
Your most embarrassing moment.
Most embarrassing moment can't be told here. Why?
I know you're using why, sort of pulling my leg. Okay, that's a trick question now. Your most uh, which university campus are you most fond of?
Sholini University by far, and this is from the heart. I tell you, the moment I reach there, I feel like taking picture after picture. Such a picturesque campus. Somehow, my own university, NIT Kurukshetra, where I'm from, engineering, it's beautiful, it's big, but doesn't inspire that much. You know, really lovely campus, no doubt.
Thank you, Vivek. We're getting lots of comments. Agnes, ma'am, Sister Agnes has sent thanks to you for your support and also passed a lot of love. Ma'am, we love you. You're such an amazing personality. Every time I meet you, you just exude love. So hats off to you. And hopefully we'll meet soon once Corona is over. But like I said, once again, any support that Shulani can provide or we seek support from St. Luke's, we'll do that. I think this is time for collaboration. So once again, thank you very much for being here. Thank you, Vivek. As always, you're so charming. As always, you're so wonderful. So love to be part of this exercise with you, and St. Luke's will be with you shortly. Thank you very much. Stay safe. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. And let's make Solon, to start with, completely corona-free. There might be a question which we might not have. Oh, there's a thank you. Sangeeta ma'am is saying thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you
ma'am.
once again.
Thank you, Sister
Last
Agnes, and thank you.
last one sentence of thoughts before we say bye, Vivek.
Thank you very much for listening in. And Sister Agnes and your team, I'm really privileged to have addressed you. As I said, my wife Nina has also studied in your school as a class 3 or 4 student. And Atul also is such a close friend. So nice to be connected. I should definitely come and meet you all. Let's stay connected.
So Monica ma'am is thanking you, Vivek, and saying she's enjoyed all your talks. I think she's referring to you because it can't be
Thank
me.
you.
So, well, I think it's you. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.